Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Savage Edge. I am so excited today. It's our 13th episode, and I have a guest that you're really going to like. And his name is Andy Kalajian, and Andy is coming to us from Alpharetta, Georgia. He's one hell of a guy. I've known him for, if I tell you how long I've known Andy, it'll date us, and we'll both seem like we're old, but we're not old. I actually met Andy when he was and I don't know if I've got this correct, Andy, but you were the trauma training manager at Zimmer. And I remember when I had come in for trauma training, and I was, my background was in trauma. So, and Zimmer had just mirrored everything that Synthes had done in the basic five set. And all I remember you saying is, "Hey, Gerry's loaded for bear over here." I think you probably remember.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You were taking a lot of notes.
We
You
were,
were you were definitely engaged,
yeah.
which is good. It's
Yeah,
great, right? You were engaged. So
you did a fabulous job. I mean, and
well, thank you.
we were engaged in the whole time, and so we've been friends since then. We lost touch for a little while, and then I came back to Zimmer. I think it was in 2007, and I show up at this meeting in Rhode Island. I think it was.
Yeah, it was Providence, Rhode Island. Yep,
Rhode
sure
Island.
was.
Yep, and who walks in but Andy Kalajian.
Yep,
One of
yep.
the reason I'm telling you all this is because Andy is just one of those guys that once you get to know him, you can pick up the phone after years, hopefully not years, but you can pick up the phone and Andy, you can just pick up where you left off with Andy because Andy's that rare guy who exemplifies what I wrote about in the four pillars: honesty, integrity, knowledge, and genuine interest. And Andy's genuine interest in people is infectious. But I'm going to let Andy tell you a little bit about that. And Andy, I am so excited to have you here today. Could you just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us how you got into the industry and a little bit about how you got to
Yeah.
this place called Fort Leadership that you're the president of.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Thank you so much. And yes, the affection goes both ways. So yeah, our relationship is long and deep, and it's been wonderful. Started in pursuing medicine at a young age, probably 10, 12 years old. I think that when I talk to people, I like to let them know that I think medicine's a calling, and it was certainly a calling for me. And I just felt like I wanted to help and serve people by helping them in medicine. I pursued dentistry, went on to Michigan State, got my degree in medical technology. I shadowed a couple dentists over a couple summers and decided, you know what? I don't know if this plan is a good plan for me. So I kind of took my passion for medicine and serving others and my degree in medical technology and coupled that with what my father called my gift of gab. And I parlayed that into a 33-year career in medical device. So I sold hips and knees and plates and screws to put the skeletal system back together after trauma and disease. I packed up my 67 Cutlass back in 1985, came down to Atlanta, Georgia, with no friends, no network, no apartment, just a big dream that I was going to get successful, and I was going to do that in the medical device industry. I started waiting tables because I needed a job to get my apartment. And like I said, I didn't have a job when I came down here, but I knew that I was getting into medical device. So guy said to me one day, he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm waiting tables." He goes, "I know that, but what are you doing here doing this?" I said, "I'm actually looking for a medical sales job." And he says, "Do you have a degree?" I said, "Yes, sir, in medical technology." He says, "Today is your lucky day." And he slid me his card. And so I started out selling arm slings and knee immobilizers for DeRoyal Industries out of Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, parlayed that into I worked for DePuy for 2.5 years before they were with Johnson and Johnson. They were with Behringer Mannheim back in those days. I was a 1099 rep and did that for about 2.5 years. And then a recruiter called and said, "Hey, how about coming over and working for Zimmer?" And it was funny, Jerry. I said, "Nope, can't do that." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, I can't be selling for DePuy one day and then selling Zimmer the next day." And he goes, "Why can't you do that?" I said, "It violates my integrity."
How about
Oh,
that?
like selling over here, this is the best. Oh, no, 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 no. I mean, this is the best. Well, which is it, right? And he says, no, no, Andy, you don't understand. This is a corporate position, company expenses, pension, 401k, car allowance. You'll be traveling over the Southeast and you'll have 7 states, 9 teams around the Southeast. So I said, okay, I'm interested. So I started with Zimmer back in 1990, and then one thing led to another, and increasing responsibility. Went inside as you suggested, and became a product manager in marketing. Did that for about 5 years up in Warsaw, Indiana, and then
Yeah.
after the kids were born, returned back down to Atlanta as a full line rep, and then later as a general manager for the trauma part of our business down here in the Southeast. You and I hooked up later in several other companies, medical device. Once I reached my 50s, started turbulent waters a little bit. Things were changing in the industry,
Yeah.
and I got restructured out a couple of times. And my wife, my wife said something very, this is noteworthy right here. This is where you pick your pen out of your pocket and you start taking this note. She said, Andy, she says, you love medical device. You are comfortable in the operating rooms, hotels, and airports, but you got to get out of your comfort zone and you got to get into your gifted zone.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you, I didn't even know what that meant. It took
Wow.
me about 6 months to get my head wrapped around it. But she said, you are gifted at speaking, teaching, and coaching. You should speak, teach, and coach.
Yeah.
And so that's how I went from medical device into Fort's leadership. And
I got the sense that you were destined for that because when you and I connected after Rhode Island, after Providence, you came up and gave a talk to my sales associates in Pittsburgh. And it was on, actually, we worked together for a couple of days, went to see
right, yeah,
doctors that you knew actually.
yeah,
And
Dr.
then we
Gerry
did
Gruen.
Gary Gruen, that's right. And then we
Yeah.
did a sales meeting and you gave a fantastic talk on the 7 habits, Stephen Covey, right?
Right, yeah,
Yeah, I
and
actually
that's
just used Stephen Covey's paradigm shift on the last podcast, which is,
oh,
something
that's great.
we talked
Yeah,
about. Yeah, so I
yeah.
remember that you did that. I got the sense that you were destined for it. Then because you were comfortable in that audience, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, and really the secret to my success is not my degree, although certainly that helps. But the secret to my success really was in the books that I read after college. Actually, I started about 17 years old. My mom handed me the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I'm like, oh my God, everything my parents are teaching me are right here in this book.
Yeah,
And that led to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, and then The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is interesting, Jerry, because I just had a breakfast this morning with a man who was a sales leader for 250 salespeople in the IT world. And he said, "So you taught the 7 habits?" I said, I did." And he said, "That's fascinating." He said, "I couldn't quite make it through the book." And I said, "Do you remember what the subtitle of that book was?" And he goes, "No, I don't really remember. I don't remember the subtitle, Andy." And I said, "Yeah, it's the 7 habits of highly effective people, the restoring the character ethic. The
yeah,
7 habits of highly effective people, restoring the character ethic." And it was that character and integrity thing that had been drummed in my head by our parents when I was a
yeah.
kid that was like, I need to read this book. Actually, I had to read it the second time to start
So
getting it, right?
I just started, I think I texted you the other day. I was just starting to, I picked up a book by Henry Cloud called Integrity, written in 2006. And what is the first thing that Henry Cloud talks about before he ever gets into integrity in the first 5 to 10 pages? Character.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Oh,
right.
yes.
Because
Do you remember what you said about sowing and reaping? I think the audience would love to.
oh yeah, yeah. So I talk about, so character is who you are. Character is your beingness. Integrity is how you behave. So character is your beingness, and integrity is how you behave. So back to your question on how does one develop character? And that's a great question. The answer to that question is actually found in the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Restoring the Character Ethic. And this is what Stephen Covey had admonished in the book. And I took this and I applied this to my life
Mhm.
as best I could. Certainly not perfect, but I've applied this the best I could. And it's this: you sow a thought, whatever you think about over and over and over again, you reap an action. So you could be thinking about your clients and your customers and making good sales calls, or you could be thinking about your fear and call reluctance, and maybe that your pricing is too high or your market's too dry. Whatever you think about over and over again, you're going to take action on it. You're going to harvest those actions. You take those actions now and you replant those actions. You sow those actions in your business or in your life, and then you're going to harvest a habit. And there's great books on habit. The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit, Atomic Habits by James Clear is another great book on habit. But you harvest those habits. When you sow your habits in your life, both your good habits and your bad habits, and hopefully you got loved ones in your family that are going to help you fertilize your good habits, and you got loved ones in your family or clients or friends or colleagues or a good sales manager, a good boss that's going to help you pull the weeds on your bad habits. But those habits, when you sow those habits, you're going to reap a character. Now, here's the thing: when you sow your character in your life, in your business over time, you're going to reap a destiny.
Hmm.
And Stephen Covey says the destiny is begin with the end in mind. What do you want the destiny of your life, of your business to look like? Well, for me and my family, we've set up a set of value systems. I would suggest you use them, but you can take what I'm going to give you right now and modify them. It's your destiny in your faith life, because it takes faith to sell a product. It takes faith to
Yeah.
pursue a client that you can't get. It's your destiny in your family life. It's your destiny in your financial life. It's your destiny in your fitness, both physical and mental, which is so critical in America today, right?
Yeah.
And then in having fun. So your character leads to your destiny in your faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. And
Really
and
powerful.
that's just the way it is. I love teaching that stuff, and that's how I grew
Yeah.
my sales business personally, and how I grew it for my teams.
Yeah, Andy, that's just it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So destiny, that's it, that's the key, right? So I mentioned that in the janitor. I use the term discerning destiny, right?
Yeah.
How you discern destiny is starts with asking better questions, right? Goes
Hmm.
right back to your what you just elaborated on in sowing and reaping, right? You have to ask yourself good questions. If you expect to discern your destiny, because otherwise you'll just go around and round in circles. And so many people, like in sales in particular, or that's why they're on that hamster wheel, right? They keep going, going,
Hmm.
going, with no real direction.
Right.
That leads me into something I want to. I've been waiting here just to back up a little bit to something you said early on, because I was writing something this morning, and I sat down and I said, why do people get into sales? Why? Right?
Hmm.
And some get into it because, oh, I can make a lot of money, or I have a friend that's making a lot of money, or my dad did it. In this case, my dad was in sales, right? As
Hmm.
well. And but you said something that was, I think, profound, and it goes right, cuts right to your faith. And I know I'm a Christian, and you are, and you said to serve, and
Hmm.
that's powerful. Um, to serve, because when we start talking to clients and customers, and we show that we have a genuine interest in those customers, they can tell whether we're genuine or not, right?
Right.
And then,
Sure can.
so once they understand that, and once they begin to trust you, they get to know you a little bit, they begin to know you, and you start to build that trust. Um, then you get an opportunity to serve them. And I think you said that so eloquently. I don't know if you want to expand on that just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that, Jerry. There's another great book out there by Patrick Lencioni. It's The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And the number one dysfunction of a team is the lack of trust. And trust is key. I'm an Eagle Scout, and there's 12 points to the Scout Oath. And, Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly. And it goes on. I'd be happy to repeat it. We don't have enough time. But
Okay.
trust is the number one thing. And the way that you can grow trust is through integrity. Now, what do I mean by that? The definition of integrity, and this is something I've kind of developed on my own, but the word integrity comes from the Latin word integer. I had to take Latin to get into dental school. Didn't go to dental school, but I had to take Latin. The word integer is the precursor to the word integrity. The word integer we think about as a math term, but really what integer means, if you go back to the Latin, integer is something that is whole, something that is indivisible, and something that is complete.
Hmm.
Integer is whole, indivisible, and complete. A person who walks with integrity is a complete, whole, and indivisible person. Now, that's easy to sort of say, but what does that really look like in practical terms? And here, I'd get out your pen again. There's four things. A person with integrity is a person that whatever they think, whatever's in their mind, whatever they say comes out of their mouth, whatever they believe in their heart, and whatever they do with their hands are all in alignment. The mind, the mouth, the heart, and their hands
Hmm.
all have to be in alignment, and it has to be in alignment to lift up people.
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
only use of power is to lift up people. And
Right.
to walk with integrity breeds trust.
Yeah, I agree. And Patrick Lencioni's book, The Five Dysfunctions of Team, is great because he goes right from without trust, you can't have commitment, you get lip service. And
That's
without
correct.
commitment, there's no accountability, which accountability goes both ways. So you never you never produce any results. And that's a big issue. So trust is at the base of that pyramid that he shows. And so I want to just shift a little bit and let's start talking about salespeople. Um, what do you see as the challenges now from you when you got in the industry? And the one thing that I love about what you do now is that you actually carried a bag, right? You started out
Mhm.
selling soft goods of all things. Oh my goodness, for those who are too young to understand that people actually detailed soft good products, then, and then a few years later they became a commodity. Um, but what do you see now? I mean, we've got, and let me just phrase this in a way that, or for frame it in a way that can be answered for our audience that's out there selling today, and that is technology has changed what we do or how we do it, right? To what extent? And so what challenges does that cause, or what does that do for our sales associates that are out there every day facing that grind? What challenges do they face today versus what you may have faced back in those days?
hmm
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I think it's a lot harder today. And the reason I think it's a lot harder today is back in the old days, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't even have pagers back then, if
Yeah,
people remember those. We didn't have computers. We didn't have text. We didn't have any of those ways of communicating. So the only way to earn trust with a surgeon was really face to face.
yeah,
And face to face is not quick. It's not instant. It's not Instacart. It's not binge watching Netflix. It's not moving up another level on Call of Duty after you've achieved this one level and you work for a couple hours and you get to the next level. It's not immediate. It takes time. And I think the challenge in with people today is that there's no immediacy. There's too much immediacy. It's like I got to get a number right now. I got to make a sale right now. That's very transactional. You can use an app to binge watch Netflix, to order your groceries, or to achieve something, uh, make a flight on Delta, but there is no app for human relations.
right.
It takes time and it meanders in different directions. And so, while I think even tools like Salesforce.com, I think they're extremely valuable, but there's oftentimes a timeline. You got to close this amount of business by first quarter, second quarter, by the end of the year, and they're year over year numbers, and you're looking at these and they're just screaming at you, I need results now.
Yeah.
But relationships aren't built that way. And I think it's extremely difficult and extremely challenging. And I don't know how people today do it because I don't know that I could do it.
Yeah, and that's a great point. We talk about today, a lot of people talk about being virtual at scale, you know, and how hard it is for somebody to get to know you, like you, and trust you, so that you can walk through a process and serve them, as you say, right? Because selling is
Hmm.
not something you do to someone; it's something you do for and with someone. And to
Hmm.
do that, you have to build that trust that you talked about. And it seems to me, just an observation on LinkedIn a lot, is that you can make connections on social media, whether it's LinkedIn or anything else to do with social media. Um, everybody's at arm's length, right? You never really get to know. There's a big sense of even imposter syndrome on social media, right?
Sure.
You can be someone when you're not, or you can be afraid to be who you really are. You know.
Right.
And so I think those fall into the challenges. And when you say it's harder, to me, that's what's harder. It's harder.
Sure.
I mean, call me old school. I like to think I'm old school, new school. And, I know one of the things you and I have always talked about is staying relevant in our
Yeah.
careers because we never wanted to be that guy walking down the academy floor, the orthopedic academy meeting, looking for their next cup of coffee to talk about the good old days, right? We want
Right.
to continue moving forward, staying relevant. What's going on today? What's the newest, latest, greatest technology and all of those things. Well, now it's technology is trying to drive relationships without actually building relationships. The point that you made about being, things happening too quickly, or people, just has to happen like that instant. I don't know if you called it instant gratification, but
Yeah. But
on the
that's what it
reply.
is. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And so how do we get around that? I mean, can a salesperson today actually be successful without building long-term, long-standing relationships? I mean, that's kind of a yes or no question. And from that, if it's a no, then what do you do?
Right. Well, you're exactly right too, because you're looking at the immediate instead of the long term. And you got to be looking long term. And it's very difficult because there are so many things competing for your eyes. A shiny object, a
Yeah.
shiny person, a shiny business, a shiny surgeon, and you're chasing, chasing, chasing. But you got to be looking at the long view because what ends up happening is as integrity is something that has to withstand a force. We know in orthopedics, right? If the force is put on the femur and it's excessive for beyond what the femur can hold, it's going to shatter. The same thing with a bridge or a structure. The same thing in your business. And so if all of a sudden you think, oh, I'm going to go over here and try to get this promotion, or I should have been the sales manager, that should have been my surgeon, and you start getting all wrapped around the axle with all these appetites, these quests for
Yeah.
conquest, you lose sight of the long term effect, and you can blow up your business in a minute because all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm cheating, but it's really nobody's business. Well, it's
Yeah.
nobody's business until it becomes their business. Because just like any structure of integrity, if it doesn't share that load, it's going to offload that to the bones around them or the joint around it, right? In the same way, if you blow up your business because you were pursuing things that you shouldn't have been pursuing and you weren't keeping your eyes focused on the long distance, right? You're going to blow up your business, you're going to blow up your marriage, you're going to wreck your bank account, you're going to wreck your credibility or your trustworthiness in the industry. And there's just no room for that,
So
especially these
what's
days.
so what's the answer? So I mean, I'm throwing a tough one at you here, right?
Yeah.
Um, so we're in the world of, everything happens fast, right? It's instant
Mm-hmm.
gratification, right? We're not putting as much emphasis on relationships. Oh, we're having superficial relationships at a distance, virtual at scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong. The virtual at scale piece is good if it's followed up with an actual face-to-face meeting where you actually say, "Oh, that person is who I thought they were," right?
Mm-hmm.
But more often than not, it's not that. Everything happens. People are buying so much off of just, Zoom and social media and all that. So what's the danger in all of that? And what's and how do we repair it if it's an issue?
Yeah, well, the danger is to not have your dreams come true, to not have that destination that you desired for your life fulfilled. And
Yeah.
that's the compromise. You're willing to go for the immediate instead of the long term. You lose sight of the long term. So your destiny in your faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun is just blown up.
Yeah.
The answer to that, the way you develop that and protect yourself, vaccinate yourself against that is by developing your character. It's all comes down to character, and that's why I have that over my shoulder here, that King of Hearts, right? The King of Hearts is there is to remind me to be the King of Hearts. And for the lady listeners, it's a reminder, ladies, to be the Queen of Hearts. You are collecting hearts all along the way. Don't burn it up because you are chasing the dollar or
Yeah.
the quota attainment or something in your report that you think your boss wants to see, or they're even demanding that you see. You've got to take the long view. You got to do what's right and not what's right for you or what's right for your company, but what's right for your world, right? It's your integrity, but
Right.
it's our world. And you're either contributing to the lifting up of humanity or you're contributing to the downfall.
Mhm.
And so that really is a call to character, and that's why it's restoring the character ethic. Don't we wish we saw more character in families today? Don't we wish we saw more character in our politics, in our
Right.
American culture, in business, in finance, even in the church, perhaps, maybe with your experience in a church. But if we had more character, and that's what we expect from the people around us, the world would be a lot better place.
Right. Right. No, I 100% agree with that. So what can salespeople do today in your opinion to navigate those waters? If let's instead of one main thing, let's just say what are three things a salesperson can do today to navigate the waters of technology and the shiny objects and the world of AI,
Yeah,
be successful in their careers?
yeah. Yeah. I remember talking to sales reps back when I was in medical device sales, and sometimes business would be acquired by meeting with the surgeon and going quail hunting or going bass fishing or going to a baseball game, perhaps, and they would get some business that way. And then the rules changed and we weren't allowed to do that anymore. And so the best way to acquire business is to become a better you. You need to
Ah,
be a type of person where you are able to connect with more people. He who collects the most people wins. And that's the only win. There's no win in comparison. So quit thinking about the people that have a better account or more surgeons or they do more hip joints and knee joints than yours. Don't wrap yourself around that. That'll make you feel bad. And don't look and compare yourself to people that aren't doing as well as you. That'll make you feel proud.
right,
And pride comes just before the fall. So the best thing, I would say the best things you could do, read good books about personal and professional development. Listen to good podcasts about personal and professional development and get into some good personal and professional development curriculum. That is the only long-term solution, learning how to become a better you. But you don't get to be a better you just because you took another spin around the sun. You actually have to be intentional and work on either finding a curriculum, finding a coach or a mentor, and getting into some good curriculum. And then once you learn the curriculum, I have a prop. I'll be right back. Once you get the curriculum, you got to get the can of paint and you have to apply it. That's the only way to do it. You
yeah,
have to learn and then you have to apply. You don't learn if you can learn all you want, but if you don't apply it, it makes no difference. The can of paint does no good in the can. You
Right.
have to dip the paint and you got to start applying it. And so it's the application of what you learn, what you listen to, and what you read that's going to make the difference in a sales career.
I couldn't agree more. You just said in so many words what a gentleman I was honored to meet a few years ago, and his daughter is actually the publisher of my second book, and his name is Charlie Tremendous Jones. He always
He was great.
wrote Life is Tremendous, and he said, "You will be the same person you are today, that you will be 5 years from now, except for the people that you meet and the books that you read." So you nailed
Mhm.
it, my friend. You really nailed it. And I thank you so much for doing this today. It's been an honor
It's been
to
an honor,
get
Jerry.
to
It's been
spend the
great to
time
catch
with
up
you.
with you too.
Oh, it's just been fabulous. So, Andy, tell our listeners where they can get a hold of you. Now, I want to preface this by what Andy just said was a really good point. And I'm just going to say it this way: we can't walk through this alone. We shouldn't be. The most successful people in the world have mentors. The most successful people in the world have coaches, right? Um, Andy and I have the advantage of being having known each other for years, and I've leaned on him at times. And Andy, if somebody wants to get a hold of you and talk to you, how do they do that?
Yeah. So, first of all, you go to my website. It's fortleadership.com. Fort, F-O-R-T, leadership.com. You can reach me at my email address, which is Andy, A-N-D-Y, at fortleadership.com. Or you can just drop me a text message or give me a call on the cell phone, 770-597-9005. That's 770-597-9005.
And I will go out on a limb and say he will pick up.
I will pick
Call you
up.
or call you back.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. We'll put the information in the credits for you guys. So if you want to get a hold of Andy, Andy, let's do this again and not make it so long next time, okay?
Yeah, I'd love to,
I
Jerry.
mean, we can have the conversation long, but the time in between, that's what I meant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when you get down and visit Stephanie over in Chattanooga or something, it's only a 90-minute drive. Let's meet halfway or we'll come up to Chattanooga and there's some great places there in Chattanooga to grab a dinner or a glass of wine or and some great sights too.
We're definitely overdue. Let's do
Yeah.
that.
All right, brother.
All right. See ya.
Thank you. Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye.